Hello everyone, I'm here to do a deck profile for my Ancient Warriors deck that got me to Platinum 1, which is currently the highest ranking in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. And I used Ancient Warriors all throughout Gold and Platinum. I used another deck to get up to Gold. But I stuck with Ancient Warriors because they're one of my favorite archetypes. And I wanted to try to use something different than the meta. And as you can see right here, Platinum 1. And let's go to my deck profile. I actually have two versions of Ancient Warriors. So that's Ancient Warrior Eldritch and Ancient Warriors regular. I used this one throughout the entire process, but I also used Ancient Warrior Eldritch. I was testing this out, and it works pretty well, but let's go to this one. All right, so here's my deck, and I think this is the best I can do with it. This is the list that worked out well for me, and it did well enough to get the Platinum 1, so it must be good enough, right? So let's begin. Here are some of the hand traps that I run. I run 2 of the Gamma and 1 of the Driver. Unfortunately, Driver is a big brick in this deck, but it is what it is. And Gamma is very useful. I like him when I'm going blind second, because usually this is a going second deck, as you can see with the Kaiju. So Gamma is really useful for getting rid of the opponent's monster, and sometimes it can even stop their turn. So with hand traps, you definitely have to try and be patient and try to use them in the correct opportunity, because there were way too many games when I used it way too early and it ended up not working out for me. So I use Gamma and the Driver. I also use Ash Blossom, which is of course very useful in general. It's probably the most common hand trap and most applicable. So you can use it in almost any deck in almost any situation. So I think it's important to have her in. It's very useful for stopping draws and stopping like summons from the deck, as you can see right here. Special summon from the deck or send a card from the deck to the graveyard. Same thing with Gamma. Try to use it in the right moment. It's really easy to use Ash on a Pot of Extravagance or Desires, but it's useful for other things as well. And let's get into the Ancient Warrior section of the deck. We got 3 of the Masterful Sun Mou, and he's going to be one of the better cards here. Basically, he's going to be your searcher, and also he's going to help you get rid of your Ancient Warriors cards on the field, because your spell cards or your magic cards, they have most of them have effects when they leave the field. So he's going to be the one to help you do that. And so you can send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard, add 1 Ancient Warriors monster from your deck to your hand. And usually I would pick either Lu Feng, which is right here, or I would pick Zhuge Kong, depending on the situation. But normally I would go for Lu Feng. He's, in general, I think the best Ancient Warrior, but we'll get to him later. And usually with him and Lu Feng, you have a pretty good board, because if Lu Feng activates his effect, you can also use Sun Mou's effect, which is if another Ancient Warrior monster's effect is activated, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and return it to the hand. So that's why for a lot of duels, I would try to wait for at least 2 cards or 2 monsters on board, because I could pop 1 with Lu Feng, and then I could bounce the other with Sun Mou. And this would usually do a lot of damage to their board and hopefully would end their turn. But I think it's a very good board with them together. So Sun Mou and Lu Feng are usually your ideal. And the others are useful as well, but I think those 2 are going to be the best. And let's go here to the next one, Liu Xuan. So he's okay. I don't like him too much, but he's useful. He has his uses. So right here, if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard, special summon 1 Ancient Warrior monster from your deck. And just to remind you, you cannot special summon this guy except by his own effect. Cannot be normaled. Must be special summoned by controlling the highest attack Ancient Warrior monster. So for him, I only rarely got to use his effect, because it's kind of annoying trying to get your opponent to have more cards than you, and sometimes I would forget that. But if it does work out, usually I would pick something like Zhuge Kong once again, or I would pick probably Guan Yun, but it really depends on the situation. So he's okay. And his second effect is when an attack is declared involving another Ancient Warrior monster, you can draw a card, which is really nice, so you can get more advantage during the battle phase. So that's really nice. And this guy right here, Zhuge Kong, he's going to be very nice, but you really don't want to draw him because you want to special summon him with his effect. If this card is added from the deck to your hand by the effect of an Ancient Warriors card, you can special summon it. So this is one of the reasons why you don't really want to see him in your hand, but he's really useful to have because he's going to be your spell and trap negation. So it's always very nice. And remember, you need to send a face-up Ancient Warriors continuous trap, not just spell or trap in general. Sometimes I would forget that, and I would summon him thinking I could negate with like a Tenki, but that's not going to work. You need to send in one of your Ancient Warrior spell cards right here, which I run three versions of them. But yes, he's very useful for your spell and trap negation. He helps build your board. He can protect you against Raigeki and some other things. And a cool thing here is if he's with Liu Xuan, you can negate a monster effect as well. So it's the same effect, but with monsters. So that's pretty nice. This never came up though, but it's nice to have. Because usually I would summon him through either this card, Ancient Saga 3 Visits, or I would search him with Double Dragon Lords. But it really depends on the situation. But he's really nice for the spell and trap negate. Then we have one fearsome Zhang Yuan. So he's going to be like a hand trap. He's pretty nice. Ancient warriors you control cannot be destroyed by battle. And basically, when your Ancient Warriors card is battling, if they're battling, you can target one of them. They lose 1,000 attack, and then you special summon this guy, so you have a body on board. And usually that's enough to destroy the opponent's card, and which is really nice because of a second effect. If a card your opponent controls is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. So if you summon him during the battle step, either offensively or defensively, you could probably get another pop with him. So it's really nice. It's really, really useful. So he makes your Ancient Warriors much more durable in battle. But I think he's only a one-of. I really don't want to see him in hand. I either want to add him with one of these cards, but he's not too bad. He's not too bad. A couple of times I special summoned him with Ancient Warriors 3 Visits and with Liu Xuan. But usually he's just okay. He's nice to have, but not necessary. You can definitely replace him. Next, we have Guan Yun. So you have to remember that if only your opponent controls the monster, so that's going to be the most important part about him. So you can special summon him only if your opponent has something on the board and not you. So you have to have an empty board. And sometimes I would forget that and I'd be screwed over. But he's a good card for opening up with a special summon. And he has a nice protection effect. Your opponent cannot target Ancient Warrior monsters you control with card effects. So that's really nice. And this one's pretty nice too. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can target one monster your opponent controls, destroy it. So this is going to be why this is going to be a going second build, because a lot of your cards are built for going second, like Liu Xuan, who can special summon from the deck, and Guan Yun, who can destroy an opponent's monster if there's more of them. So he's really nice to have. And then we have Zhang De, who's going to be like your OTK. He's going to help you with OTKs and push you for another push for the win. He's also another body on board, which is useful for link summoning your double Dragon Lord right here. But he's nice to have. He's nice to have. The most important part is here. If you control 2 or more Ancient Warriors monsters, you can special summon this card. So you can have, for example, you could have Sun Mou, and then you can special summon Lu Feng, and then you can special summon him. So that's 3 bodies on board, and that's a lot of damage if they can attack. So he's really nice to have, and if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, this guy can attack twice during the battle phase. So he can really get rid of some problem cards. And this is another going second kind of guy, but his second effect didn't really come up for me that often. It's more important for the first effect. If I have 2 more Ancient Warrior cards, I can special summon him. So he's really nice to having an extra body and more damage. And he also gains 300 attack, so for each monster your opponent controls, which is, again, going to help you with clearing boards in battle. And then we have 3 kaijus, extremely useful for getting rid of untargetable thing or for things that are protected by destruction and battle. So a lot of times I would wait for the opponent to use up all the resources, and then I would kaiju their most important card. I've kaiju'd like F-Zero Utopic Future Dragon. That was very nice. I kaiju'd Shiraig, Ominous Omen, and just find the most important card that they have, and you can use the kaiju on them. So really nice. Really, really nice to have. And Lu Feng, probably the best Ancient Warrior card. Definitely a 3 of. So he can only be special summoned by controlling the highest attack Ancient Warrior monster on the field, even if it's tied. So I never really fought another Ancient Warrior deck, but that's something to keep in mind. You have to control the highest Ancient Warrior card in general. And you can only special summon him once per turn this way, so by having the highest attack card. And this is really nice. Once per turn during the main phase, so each main phase. It's a quick effect, which is really nice. You can destroy the one face-up monster your opponent controls with the highest attack. And this doesn't target, which is extremely nice. So usually I would try to ideally wait for Sun Mou and him to be on board together, because if he pops, then he can also bounce a card from the field to the hand, right here. You can target one monster your opponent controls, return it to the hand, and that's going to do a lot of damage to the board, and that's a lot of disruption. So he's definitely going to be a 3 of, and he's probably your best card. But there's something kind of annoying on the bottom, which is pretty terrible. It backfired against me a couple times. Once per turn during the end phase, if your opponent controls a monster with the highest attack, give control of this card to your opponent. So that's going to be like a historical reference, because this guy betrays a lot of his allies. But yeah, if you do not have the highest attack creature on the field, then he's going to betray you and go to the opposite side. And if that happens, you're probably going to lose, because that once per turn pop is extremely effective. And he's a big body. He has a lot of attack points. So it's really annoying if he betrays you and goes to the other side. You're probably going to lose at that point. So keep that in mind. And one more thing. This is something I forgot a couple times. If you activate his pop effect, you cannot activate monster effects the turn you activate this effect except Ancient Warrior cards. So there was one situation when I had an Appaloosa, right here, Appaloosa, and I was wondering why she wouldn't activate to stop the opponent's monster effects. And then I realized it's because I already used Lu Feng's pop. So it turns off every other monster effect except Ancient Warriors. So that's something to keep in mind. And then for the spells, I run Raigeki. It's won me a couple games, so it's nice to have, but there's a lot of cards that are indestructible, so keep that in mind. But this one is way more important, Harpie's Feather Duster. You have to fight off Eldritch somehow, and the Sky Strikers, and any other trap and control decks, so it's really helpful. Extravagance, your extra deck doesn't really matter at all. If you can see my extra deck, it's actually kind of messed up right now. But the only important card is going to be Double Dragon Lords, and I really don't have the budget right now to get another one, but I would add them in if I could. But Double Dragon Lords is your only really choice that you need. Everything else is just kind of fodder for Extravagance. And for Ancient Warrior's Oath, the Double Dragon Lords, he's really going to be useful for your strategy, but he's not like essential. So he's nice to have. He's definitely nice to have. And 3 Tenki, that's your searcher. And fun fact, you can also use the Tenki on board with a Sun Mou and Liu Xuan to send it from the field to the graveyard to activate their effects. So if you don't have any of the Ancient Warrior spells right here, you can use Tenki to send it to the graveyard instead. And then we have the Ancient Warrior spell cards, which is 3 visits. This is the best one. If you normal or special summon an Ancient Warrior monster, you can target one of those monsters, add one Ancient Warrior monster with a different name from your deck to your hand. So remember to activate this first before you normal summon or special summon something. I forgot about that a couple times. So ideally, I would play this first, and then Sun Mou, and then Ancient Warriors Saga 3 Visits would add a card to the hand. So that's going to be probably like Lu Feng, hopefully. I can special summon Lu Feng, and then I can also send the 3 visits from the field to the grave to activate Sun Mou's effect, which lets me add another card to the hand. So it really depends. Sometimes I added Zhuge Kong. I think that's probably the best choice to negate a spell or trap effect. Sometimes I added Zhang to push for more damage. And sometimes I added this guy for some extra protection in battle. But usually I would pick Zhuge Kong for the spell and trap negation. So it really depends. And this card also has a really cool effect when it leaves the field. If this card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can special summon an ancient warrior monster from your hand. So that's really nice. It's going to help swarm the field with your ancient warriors. And this deck is really good for OTKing if you have the right hand. It's really easy to OTK because you can have really a lot of bodies on board. So 3 visits is definitely the best of the ancient warriors cards. And let's take a look at the others. That's going to be Borrowing of Arrows. This one's okay. I added it because I wanted some more names for the effects. But basically, this one, it's only a 1-up for me. You can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and 1 Ancient Warriors monster you control. And then basically, you can have the enemy's attack and you can add it to yours, which is really nice. And it's applicable even if this card leaves the field. So what I would do is activate this card first, steal the opponent's attack points, add it to one of your cards, and then I would send it from the field to the grave with like either Sun Mou or Liu Xuan to do cool effects. So Borrowing of Arrows is pretty nice, and it has a nice effect here. If you have Ancient Warrior monster with 2 or more different attributes, you can place a different Ancient Warrior's spell or trap into your field, which is really nice. Really, really nice. So with this, I would either activate another 3 visits or East by South Wind, which is your other choice. So for this one's kind of interesting because it has a coin flip effect, which is really rare nowadays. But basically, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, then your Ancient Warrior cards cannot be negated. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your Ancient Warriors. And until the end of the turn, all Ancient Warrior effect monsters you currently, so currently is the most important word here, currently control, gains this effect. So once the card declares an attack, you can destroy 1 card your opponent controls. So that means you want to use this ideally when you have a lot of monsters on board. So when you declare an attack, you can clear out their board, because this is a really powerful effect to, clear out spells and traps and other monsters. So try to use it when you have enough bodies on board, because it says currently, right? Currently. So not the things that you summon after this card leaves. And the reason this card has the coin flip is because of this effect. If it leaves, then it gains this effect that we just talked about. So that's pretty nice. And finally, Cosmic Cyclone, really useful, way better than Mystical Space Typhoon because you can banish Eldritch cards and Sky Striker spells. So really helpful, really, really helpful. I think backrow removal is mandatory. You're going to lose a lot of games to Eldritch and probably Sky Striker. And it's really nice to have some kind of spell removal, like spell and trap removal. So that's really helpful for them. And the extra deck, once again, doesn't matter in the slightest. The only important one is going to be the Double Dragon Lord. So let's talk about him. So you need 2 Beast Warrior monsters, including a Wind Ancient Warrior monster. So your Wind Ancient Warriors are going to be Liu Xuan, Zhuge Kong, Guan Yun, and Zhang Yuan. So you can use them to summon the Double Dragon Lord. And Double Dragon Lord's really nice. Ancient Warriors you control gain 500 attack and defense. Really good, especially for Lu Feng. Remember, you need the highest attack on the field to keep him on your side. Otherwise, he betrays you because you're weak. So Double Dragon Lord is really nice to have. He also, when he's link summoned, allows you to get another card from your deck to your hand. Any Ancient Warrior card from your deck to your hand. So usually I would add Zhuge Kong once again because of his special summon effect. But really it depends on what you want. Sometimes I would grab Lu Feng to get more damage on board. Sometimes I would get Sun Mou for another normal summon next turn. So really it depends on what you want to do. But Double Dragon Lord, really nice. And this is the effect I think most people know. You can send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard, then target 1 face-up card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So this is another form of disruption, really nice. So my ideal end board is going to be him, Double Dragon Lord, Sun Mou, and Lu Feng. That's potentially 3 disruptions on your opponent's turn, which is really powerful. Really, really good. So usually that should be enough to stop their turn, unless they're playing something crazy and special summoning way too much and can recover. But usually that's enough for almost any deck they can face. And it was good enough to get me to Plat 1, so I'm happy about that. And everything else really doesn't matter. As you can see, most of them I can't even summon. The only other notable one is kind of Tiger King. He needs 2 Beast Warrior cards. When this card is XE summoned, you can set a fire formation, which is nice, but I never used him because usually he was banished with Pot of Extravagance. But I can see how he would be useful. Like you can set your Tenki, and then you can detach a material from him, and then you can negate the effect of all face-up effect monsters on the field except Beast Warriors. And pretty much all your cards are Beast Warriors, so that's going to be really nice. He's a effect negation. But I never used him once in my duels. So I pulled him in the same pack, and I just added him because he's nice to have, but not necessary. Double Dragon Lord is going to be usually your answer to everything. And I also have a couple of generics like Unicorn, Palausa. I summoned her only once in like 100 duels. And once again, that was the duel where I was confused that she didn't activate her effect because Lu Feng turned her off. So you have to remember, Lu Feng only allows other Ancient Warrior cards to activate their effect if he activates his pop. So that's something to keep in mind. But usually, you don't really need any of this. You only need the Double Dragon Lord and maybe the Tiger King. Maybe. But as you can see, my extra deck is not complete. And really, there's only 2 cards here that you need. So I hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions, and I can try to answer them. I'll try to also do a deck profile for my other decks. I have a couple of others that I used to get to gold and to plat on this account. So let me know. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. See you later.